The movie Bill and Ted Face the Music banked on the nostalgia of the first two Bill and Ted movies to get people to want to watch the movie Bill and Ted Face the Music. Except the movie Bill and Ted Face the Music shits all over the very two movies it banked on the nostalgia to get people to watch this movie in the first place. Before we get started, disclaimer number one. If you never saw the first two Bill and Ted movies and you saw Bill and Ted Face the Music cold and you liked the movie Bill and Ted Face the Music as its own standalone movie as it was, nothing I say in this video in any way pertains to you. Okay? Disclaimer number two. If you're one of the bullshit fake geek culture fanboys or fangirls who claimed to have seen the first two Bill and Ted movies and claimed to have loved the first two Bill and Ted movies, and you saw Bill and Ted Face the Music and you didn't have any problems with the movie Bill and Ted Face the Music, I suggest you leave now because I'm about to explain how you're all full of shit and how you're all bullshit geek culture fanboys and fangirls. So bye. You can go now. You're dismissed. Your existence is pretty much insignificant anyway. This movie not only contradicts and retcons the first two movies, it contradicts and retcons this movie. This movie contradicts not only the first two movies, but itself. Let me explain. This movie kind of introduces a new element, which is that Bill and Ted have to write a song that will stop the end of all reality. Except the leader tells Bill and Ted that they were supposed to write a song that was going to save reality. But Bill and Ted didn't know that they were supposed to write a song. You see, for those of you claiming to have seen the first two movies, let me actually explain what happens in the first movie. See, in the first movie, Rufus informs the audience, and it's like, hold on, I wrote it down. 2688. In 2688, Rufus explains that Bill and Ted's music unifies the universe. So in 2688, the universe is at harmony. The universe is as one. Everything is amazing. Mini golf scores are down. I can't remember what went up. I'm sorry. I apologize. But in the first movie, Rufus explains that their music unifies the universe. There's nothing about a song or that Bill and Ted knew that they had to write a song. But in this movie, they somehow knew that they were supposed to write a song that was supposed to save the universe. But in the first movie, it was their music that was supposed to save the universe. But their music did unite the universe. Because in this movie, it's 2720. 32 years after, in the first movie, Rufus has established universal harmony has already been achieved. But 32 years after universal harmony has already been achieved, according to Bill and Ted, the first one, the first Bill and Ted movie. In this movie, it hasn't been achieved, and Bill and Ted weren't supposed to create music that unified the universe, which according to the first movie it did, but according to the third movie, they were never supposed to create music that unifies the universe. They were supposed to write a song that was supposed to save reality from crumbling. 32 years after the first movie is established, harmony, universal harmony has already been established. The third movie goes, yeah, apparently that never happened. What? How does that work? How does that work, movie? Those of you reviewing this movie who claim to have seen the first two movies and claimed to have loved the first two movies, explain how that works. You can't. And how were Bill and Ted supposed to know that they were supposed to write a song that was supposed to save reality from crumbling when the first time they were told that they were supposed to write a song that was going to save reality was 77 minutes before the end of reality? Did ya follow all that, boys and girls? Because that took me quite a bit to figure out. But that's the plot of Bill and Ted's Face the Music. It literally contradicts the first two movies, retcons the first two movies, and literally contradicts itself. It makes no sense. Even if it did make sense, what is this plot connected to? Is it a new element, or is it connected to the original? Because it's neither. Speaking of retconning, I love this. I love this because this establishes how those of you who claim to have seen the first two movies and loved the first two movies never actually mentioned this little incongruity, this little tidbit of change or retcon. See, since none of you actually watched Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, I'm going to explain what happened at the end of it. At the end of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, you see Bill and Ted with indeed each having a child. Except at the end of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, they're both boys. Oops. Why are they girls in this movie? Why did none of you who claimed to have seen the first two movies and claimed to have loved the first two movies, saw this movie and never mentioned that it's odd that they were supposed to be boys, they were boys in, the end of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, but in this one, they were girls. Oh, that's easy. Because you never actually saw the goddamn movies. See, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. You see, those reviewers who are trying to connect to the bullshit comic book geek culture fan base, and those of you within the geek culture fan base who claimed to have seen the first two movies and claimed to have loved the first two movies, never actually saw the first two movies. You see, those reviewing and those claiming to be part of the geek culture fan base, your knowledge of the first two movies wasn't because you saw the movies. It was because, I don't know, I'm guessing you read the Wikipedia entry or you read the IMDb, plot summary. That's the only excuse you have, okay? Because I don't think the Wikipedia entry or the IMDb summary covered the fact that Bill and Ted had two boys at the end of the movie. That's how you did it. That's why you didn't know that the two daughters did it. What was something that was a mistake, was an issue, was a contradiction. You didn't know that because you never actually saw the first two movies, and you never actually loved the first two movies. In case you're wondering, okay, this is the part where it's me explaining how those of you trying to connect to the geek culture fan base and those of you within the geek culture fan base, you're all full of shit. You're all bullshitters. Welcome to the geek culture fan base of 2020. It's filled and bloated with all of you bullshit artists. Okay? Somebody has to tell you. Okay? And I'm here for you. I do this for you. It's just the kind of guy I am. Oh yeah. I can't remember if it's Bill or Ted, but they asked Kelly, how does this song save reality? And Kelly says, that I can't tell you. Gee, Kelly, why can't you possibly tell us? Could it possibly be because the writers of this piece of shit movie had no goddamn clue? Didn't even bother putting in the effort or imagination or thought, or were so goddamn phoning this in that they had no idea how it was supposed to save the universe? I mean, like, this is ridiculous. This movie is a pathetic sequel. It's a pathetic movie. This movie should be trashed for how lazy it is, how weak it is. It is a pale carbon copy of the first two movies. Okay. I understand that Keanu Reeves and Winters are no longer as young as they were in the first two movies. I get it, okay? So they can't replicate the energy and fun that made those characters so fun and interesting to watch in the first two movies. But you had the daughters, okay? The daughters could have been the ones that replicated and carried on the energy and fun of, young Bill and Ted. Except the two daughters were just, yeah, dude, cool. Yeah. Like the California accent, right? Or the Valley Girl, Valley Boy accent is the only carryover from the original two movies of the Bill and Ted characters that we loved. That was actually fun and interesting. Like, there's none of that. This movie is a lazy carbon copy of what you remembered. Well, for those of us who actually watched it, not you guys. Okay, like, let's make that clear. Of who actually watched the first two movies and loved those characters, right? I mean, what happened to all their personality traits? All the things that they used to, all these, like where's all the air guitar? Where's all the later dudes? Where's all the little inflections and character personalities about the first two that Bill and Ted were in the first two movies and this one? Now, I understand that Reeves and Winters are older and they can't do it and they don't have that same energy as when they were younger. I'm not unaware of that fact. It's the fact that you went out of your way to establish they're the exact same characters, but with such minimal effort in putting any inflection of the characters that we loved about them in the first place. Like, again, if they're supposed to be the same dumb, lovable idiots, where was all the air guitars? No, I think this movie did it 3 times just to go, oh, remember how they used to do the air guitar thing? Right? Here's the other aspect of how the Bill and Ted in this movie are just absolute shadows of their former characters. And this movie has absolutely, this movie, I don't care. The fact that it's the same co-writers or co-producers of the first two films, it makes it even worse, okay? Because one of the thing that made Bill and Ted the lovable idiots that they were in the first two movies and contributed to a lot of the humor of the first two movies is that Bill and Ted were literally oblivious to the very situations they would get themselves into, or that they were in. Like when they got into hell, like when they went into hell. Okay, for those of you who pretend to have actually seen Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, I'm going to explain what happened in the movie. This will probably be the first time you've gotten this information. In Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, they die and go to hell. Okay, you probably got that from the Wikipedia page. But what happened was, while they're in hell, I can't remember which one says to who. I think Ted goes to Bill, when I die, okay, you can have my, what was it? I don't know, Metallica, Slayer, Dio. I can't remember which rock group it was. You can have my record album. And like, how can you ask that? How can you go, when I die, you can have them, but you're already dead? Like, do you understand? They are literally oblivious to the fact that they were dead. In this movie, that character trait that was absolutely integral doesn't even exist in this movie. This movie, okay, was a complete failure as a sequel. Okay? This movie was bad. As a sequel, it failed on so many levels. Why this movie isn't being trashed and called out for the bullshit it is, I have no idea. Okay? It boggles my mind that there's this fake nostalgic attempt at trying to justify this movie, even though it literally contradicts and invalidates the very movies it's based on. But it's not like those of you reviewing this movie know what the hell you're talking about. You'd have had to have watched the movies in the goddamn first place, which you never did. Because if you had, you would have noticed all the inconsistencies, all the contradictions, all the stupid. You didn't. Oh yeah. I can't believe I almost forgot this. Okay, so Bill and Ted are constantly going to see their future selves to try and get the song. But their future selves are bitter and mad because, according to them, their wives left them. And they don't have the song. Except at the end of the movie, it's established that their wives never left them. So why would their future selves have it that their wives left them when the movie establishes that their wives never did leave them? That's the small one. Here's the doozy. If by the end of the movie, the daughters create the whole band creates the song that saves reality, that means that the future selves exist because they created the song that saved reality. Well, if the future selves exist because at the end of the movie the song that saves the universe was actually performed and done, why wouldn't the future selves of Bill and Ted know what the song was? The only reason their future selves exist is because the song was actually done and thus saved reality for there to actually be the future selves. Like this. And you know what the hilarious part is? Even more funnier than how stupid all of this was? I have to actually point this out to you goddamn morons. None of you caught this. None of you. And don't give me this bullshit that, oh, you did notice it and you just let it ride. This is me actually telling you this right now is you actually being aware of for the first time of, oh yeah, crap, that is right. That doesn't make sense. That is stupid. Welcome to Geek Culture Fan Base in 2020. You're all goddamn idiots. Oh yeah, here's another thing. Okay, this is the last one because I there's way too many and I don't want to make this video an hour because God knows none of you have gotten this far anyway. But it's therapeutic for me, right? Why was Bill and Ted's story about going into the future to get a copy of the song while their daughter's story was to go back in time and get the various musicians to create the super band that was going to create the song that was going to save reality? Wouldn't the daughter's adventure, shouldn't that have been Bill and Ted's? Like, call me crazy, but when you're watching a movie titled Bill and Ted's Face the Music, you figure it's a movie about Bill and Ted being the heroes. Kind of like how they were the heroes in the first movie, and kind of like how they were heroes in the second movie. Why wouldn't it have made... take away all the stupid and the ridiculous and convoluted bullshit story and complications and retcons and all that. Even if I ignore all of that, if the movie had at least had it that this movie was about Bill and Ted going back through time to try and get a whole group of musicians throughout time to help create the song, and all the antics, like in the first movie, the antics of having Jimi Hendrix in 2020 and having Louis Armstrong in 2020 and having a cave girl, as stupid as that was, okay? I guess Buddy Rich wasn't available or whatever, but again, there's like a dozen other drummers they could have used, but having that cave girl from 11,000 BC or whatever, and have her antics in 2020, kind of like how they did with Joan of Arc, kind of like how they did with Genghis Khan. Oh, those are two characters that were in the first movie. For those of you who never actually watched the first movie. I know this is all new information, but try and keep up. Like, this movie actually had the characters that the flutist, I don't really understand the flutist, but whatever. Like, have the comedy be of their, I can't remember the name of the term, but person at a time or whatever. Have it that way. Like, if you're going to at least at the very least, copy the same aspects that were funny in the first two movies, as opposed to what this piece of shit was. Anyway, I'm done. I'll rant it out. This was, oh, God. It's the fact that so many of the people reviewing this are just such bullshit artists, not even noticing the stupid, not even knowing that this movie's contradicting aspects. Like the whole montage at the end of at the end of Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, there was a montage explaining how Bill and Ted ended up creating music that changed the world. That entire montage was rendered irrelevant by this movie. Okay, like I said, there's so much more to talk about and so much bullshit. But again, I'm done. I'm over it. I'm out of here. See ya.